Nearly 500 students, parents, and teachers representing 20 different public charter schools flanked the steps of the state capitol this morning, vowing to fight to keep their schools open.
A Channel 2 investigation reveals more than 700 Georgia teachers repeatedly failed at least part of the test.
The fact is, something is not being done correctly in these schools.
Do we have the will to say enough is enough?
Making the grade in Georgia, educational freedom and justice for all. The American public school system was created to ensure that all students would have the opportunity to become educated, pursue happiness, and help maintain our nation's position as the world's greatest economic competitor. But in today's global economy, are Georgia public schools making the grade? Are our children graduating ready to compete for the jobs of the future? Unfortunately, strong research across the board tells us that the answer is no. 12% of American high schools are dropout factories, schools where less than 60% of freshmen even make it to their senior year. In Georgia, over 61,000 students in the class of 2010 failed to graduate from high school. That's enough students each year to fill up the Georgia Dome. And what happens when our schools fail to educate our kids? The social and economic impact is devastating. We spoke with several experts on the issue. Georgia Tech professor of economics, Christine Reese.
Our problem is really the students who don't make it to college and who don't make it out of high school. And we're just losing generations of especially young minority males. That is going to cause a drain on social services in many ways beyond just transfer payments, but in terms of crime and homelessness and so on.
Our education system, I'm going to put it in my vernacular, is jacked up from the floor up. He said it's broken.
If we look at student achievement in Georgia, we see that we're nationally ranked 46th in the country for our poor graduation rate of 65%, meaning only 65% of our high school seniors are graduating. Now, the other piece of information that's disturbing for Georgia is that of our students that are tested at lower levels, only 27 to 34% of them, so about 3 out of 10 are actually have basic proficiency in reading and math. Even more problematic is the disparate impact that poor performing schools have on low income and minority kids, because at the end of the day, the kids that end up in these poor performing schools tend to be minorities and low-income students because their parents don't have other options for where to send their children. And the impact of this is that the societal divide widens between the haves and the have-nots.
If we look at international comparisons, we recognize that among the top 30 industrialized nations, the United States is near the bottom. The challenges are enormous, but we have to win this battle.
What I love most about this issue of school choice and parent choice is that it's a kid's issue. It's not a Democratic or Republican issue, it is a children's issue. When I talk to kids who attend a traditional public school or a charter school or even a private school, I don't say, are you a Democrat or Republican? I say, what can I do to make sure you have the best educational experience possible?
And the school establishment tends to just say, well, give us a little more time. We need more money for these schools. We need a little bit more time. We don't have time. We can't take kids and say, yeah, in 5 years we'll be just fine. What did you do to kids for that 5 years that were going through the system at the time?
Right now, the state of Georgia has 1.5 million citizens without a high school diploma.
Georgia high school dropouts earn, on average, just under $14,000 per year. High school graduates earn nearly $30,000, while college graduates earn an average of $71,000 annually. Consistently, the unemployment rate for dropouts is 3 times that of college graduates and 1.5 times that of high school graduates.
If I live in a poor community and the only school in my community is a not so good school, then why should I be forced to go to that dropout factory? We have to take a serious look at whether or not we want to see all children perform at a high level and not just a particular group of kids.
What if we could reduce the dropout rate by half? In Georgia, the benefit would be great. Each year, we would create $495 million in economic growth, $345 million in increased earnings, and $256 million in increased spending, create $87 million in increased investment, generate $26 million in increased tax revenue, and home sales would skyrocket by more than $700 million. But with over 1/3 of our students not graduating, our crisis carries both a social and an economic cost. Americans for Prosperity Foundation Georgia Director, Virginia Galloway.
Georgia has so many good things going for it in the realm of economic development. We've got natural resources, we've got the Port of Savannah, we've got a rail system, we've got a federal highway system coming through. We've got a lot of great things that should make us a major magnet for investment, for corporations to be moving here with their companies. But the problem is our education system.
If we're going to be competitive economically, we've got to improve all schools. And that's why we believe in school choice.
In the future, America is expected to have 123 million high-skilled, high-paying jobs, but only 50 million people that qualify to take them. We are heading toward a huge brain drain in the American workforce. Georgia EEOC Director Melvin Everson.
Anyone will tell you that a prospective business or prospective industry, when they go scouting for a place to expand or relocate, the number one thing they ask, how's your workforce? If you can't guarantee them that you have a qualified, trained, and educated workforce, economically, I'm going to look somewhere else.
Our pass-fail rate for our openings vary depending upon the job that we're trying to fill. I would say overall, on average, about 58% of the applicants that come in and take the test pass.
We spend a little over $14,400 per year to educate the children in Atlanta public school systems, and I can tell you we're clearly not getting our money's worth. On average, we're spending roughly about $9,000 to $10,000 in the state, and still we're ranked near the bottom, 5% of school systems in the country. It's not how much money you spend, it's what you get for the money that you spend.
To the extent that we have schools that are spending more and more money, which they are, and doing a worse and worse job of training students, which they are, we've got a physical problem. We as a community are investing in these young people, then we as investors in our government should have a big problem with it. Increased spending simply just doesn't work.
Last year, the Georgia General Assembly created a special council to look at our tax code in order to make us more competitive. But even that council recognized that education and transportation and other factors are just as important as taxes, and none is more important than education.
If you look at your property tax bills, 2/3 of that goes to your local schools. Your state taxes, almost half of the entire state budget is spent on K-12 education. And then the federal also kicks in some dollars for education. So taxpayers are paying for it all over the place.
If we're in a republic, if I'm going to give you my tax dollars to make decisions on my behalf, then you had better listen to what I say and you had better interact with me in the process of making those decisions. That's not happening.
Even before widespread CRCT cheating by teachers and administrators was revealed, many knew that the education model was broken. If we want to provide educational justice, we have to fix the model. It's time for results over rhetoric. That means more educational freedom of choice. Under the educational choice model, there are many types of schools that a student can attend. Traditional zip code public schools are joined by charter schools, magnets, online and hybrid schools, home and private schools. Traditionally, most students go to a public school. Center for an Educated Georgia Director, Jerry Nims Rooker.
Traditionally in Georgia, school choice options are limited for students by their zip code and their family's bank account. So students who are middle income and low income traditionally do not have access to perhaps the education they need. And parents are certainly the best people to decide what kind of educational services will help their child, but often they have one choice.
But if we have no choice and your school is entirely chosen for you based on your zip code, I wouldn't want to shop at a grocery store based on my zip code. Well, we should have choice in school like that. It's ridiculous to assume that the school that happens to be closest in proximity to your house is absolutely the best for educating your particular child that you know is different than a lot of other children. It just shouldn't work that way.
Despite challenges in many zip code schools, there are exceptional public schools as well. The key, as always, is a passionate teacher with more time to dedicate to individual students. Hiram High School pre-engineering teacher Leon Grant.
Well, I've really been blessed with some great kids. Not all of them are the highest achieving kids, but they're passionate about what they're doing. Some of the awards we have won, we've had students that placed internationally in the Intel Science and Engineering Fair with the collapsible wheelchair. About 3 years ago, we took a group of students to MIT in Massachusetts, where we were a Lemelson MIT Invent team. We try to marry the academic fundamentals that they just got to have with this application of those principles in some real world challenge. And I find that combination works.
Another excellent educational option is charter school. U.S. Senator Johnny Isakson.
Well, actually, the charter school movement started sort of with my time as state board chairman. Charter school movement is a great movement because it married goals for the school with ideas of the parents and commitments of the teachers. It was a contract. At the end of every 5 years, that contract was reviewed. If they didn't meet standards, if they didn't meet their goals, they didn't get a renewed charter. It put accountability at the school administration level, but it engaged the parents, the children, and the teachers in the decision.
Numerator in our answer of 5. Let's give her a hand, please. Let's do it one more time. All right, much better. Number 2, 100%. This one's a little bit trickier. Miss Desiree.
There is not one thing that we do here that is the secret in our recipe. We have committed, caring, and competent teachers. We make sure that we have a very structured environment. We make sure that we teach with rigor, and we have high expectations of every student. We make sure that we involve and engage our families. We make sure that our girls feel safe. And I think all of that combined with best practices that are well researched, that we know to work, and they've been proven to help eliminate the achievement gap, we take all of those things together, and that's what helps to create a great school.
When you take a kid out of a 50 or a 60 CRC-2T average score kind of school and you put them in Ivy Prep, and Ivy Prep has a 94 average, scoring 98 in the English portion of that, and those same girls that came from the 50s and 60s, they were scoring 50s and 60s, and they're at Ivy Prep scoring in the 90s. That's incredible.
The hope is that the innovative things that are going on in charter schools would be copied in traditional public schools and would improve their performance.
Success is when we have our students becoming strong and developing strong problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills. You're going to collaborate and learn how to work with each other, and you're going to learn how to communicate well. And you're going to be very respectful and understanding of your community as a citizen as a whole. We're very proud of our graduation rate. We have a 90+ graduation rate across our 4 years. This past year it was 90%. And we also have 78+% of our graduates go on to college. We've had students to go on to schools all around the United States. Some have stayed here, have gone to Georgia Tech, Morehouse, Spelman. They've gone off to Notre Dame, Brandeis. The biggest thing that we're proud of is that we're preparing them to be successful.
The opponents of charter schools especially say they take the cream of the crop from the other schools, and that's why they do so well. The statistics show the exact opposite is true. In the state of Georgia, over half the students in charter schools are eligible for free and reduced lunch. The reality is also that a majority of the students in charter schools in Georgia are also of minority or ethnic origin. You know, people will often say to me, well, you know, charter schools sometimes are closed. It's a surprise to them when we say, well, if they don't reach their mission of improving student achievement, we support those closures. And then I always say, how many of our traditional public schools would we need to close if we close schools that were not meeting their own goals set for them by the state? There would be hundreds of schools in the state of Georgia right now that would be closed if they had to live with the rigor of the charter schools.
Governor Nathan Deal on the Georgia Supreme Court decision that dramatically cut funding for charter schools.
Well, I think charter schools have provided an option for parents and for students that has proven to be very successful. We've had a variety of charter schools all across the state. Of course, there are those that have gone, entire systems have gone to a charter approach. And then, of course, we had the independent charter schools that went through the Independent Charter School Commission. Unfortunately, our Supreme Court has ruled that that is an unconstitutional approach. And so we did authorize about $10.9 million to be used to keep those that were already operational and had proved to be successful open so that they could continue as they had anticipated. Now, what it did was, of course, it altered the way that the state of Georgia can go about authorizing charter schools. And that is something that is going to have to be addressed in light of the state Supreme Court decision.
The Tala Charter Academy serves 5 different counties. All of those counties are poor counties in Georgia, very rural. We serve about 60% free and reduced status children. We also have about 25% minority students. Because we are a choice for parents, we do have a lot of students that come here because they haven't been succeeding somewhere else. Last year was our first year. Out of the 5 counties that we serve, we outperformed all 5 of the schools in almost every single subject area in every single grade.
We just get to do this hands-on learning that you just don't have to sit there and copy all these things on your textbook and memorize all these notes. You get to go and actually do it. And it's really helped me learn a lot more because you get to do it, and once you do it, it really sticks in your brain.
The most important thing to me is that parents have the right to choose whatever is best for their children and whatever is best for their families, so that they can make sure that their children not only get a wonderful education, but that it's an enjoyable experience for the child.
When we heard that the Supreme Court had ruled us unconstitutional, that night I went home and I talked to my kids, who was then, I had a son in 3rd grade and a daughter in 6th grade. They both started crying. And my son, who has the learning disability, said to me, "Mama, I can't go back to that other school. PCA's changed me, and I can't go back. We have to fight for our school. We have to be like Martin Luther King and fight for our rights." And so I knew then that they got it. And then on that same note, I came to school the next day and I was emotional because it was just so up in the air, and I thought, I can't send these children back to the schools they came from. I can't. I have to do what I can to make sure that they're still here. I can't send them back to where they came from. I've seen the growth. I've seen how hard they've worked and that this works. And I told my students about it, and I said, guys, we have to fight for what we believe in. Do we believe in our charter school? Do you believe in what you're doing? And one of my little kids said, I think we should make protest signs and go to that Capitol and fight for our school. And so we started making signs because they had learned about Martin Luther King and Jackie Robinson and how, you know, if you believe in something strong enough, you have to fight for it. You have to be your own advocate. And my 2nd graders made protest signs and got the entire school making signs, ready to fight. That's how much we believe in our school.
Online learning is giving students and teachers flexibility to tailor education more now than ever. This includes giving parents who homeschool their children a stronger set of resources. Georgia Public Policy Foundation President Kelly McCutcheon on the future of education.
Certainly one of the most exciting new options are online schools or virtual schools. We have 4 of those operating in Georgia, including the Georgia Virtual School, which is operated by the Department of Education, where kids can take nearly any high school class, AP classes, foreign language classes, or almost any other class in the curriculum.
Georgia's done a lot of things really well up front on online learning, from having an online learning supplemental program to really focusing on credit recovery in particular, which is a big area of need in schools. If you look at the high schools around Georgia, a lot of them can't offer courses as basic as physics. Having that online learning program there start to supplement it, really important. The other part of it is full-time online schools are really important, and so having a Georgia Virtual Academy that can serve full-time students is absolutely critical for a number of reasons, whether they're homeschooled out of choice or homebound for illness reasons or otherwise. Having that option so that they can still get the schooling that they need is absolutely critical, and Georgia's been really good about being early in setting up those options for students.
Because I have 8 children, I've really enjoyed having all the options that are available because each child is so different. Some are very studious and get their work done, very diligent, and others need a little more of mom interaction with them, and homeschooling has been wonderful for that. But over the years, our life has changed, our schedule has changed. It just doesn't, what worked 5 years ago doesn't quite work today. A great option has happened in Georgia, and it's Georgia Cyber Academy, which is an online school. And my kids this year are participating in that. It was wonderful. All the curriculum was delivered to my door. There's so much available through that. My children are taught in online classes. It has been a great experience. I don't have to spend my Sunday evenings making lesson plans. For those people who want to homeschool but don't feel quite comfortable in doing that on their own independently like I did for so many years, this is a perfect option that Georgia has provided for many people.
Our third one was coming along into high school, and we were utilizing some tutoring with him in some of the more challenging subjects, maths and sciences, but then some scholarship opportunity came for him to go to a private Christian school.
I have 5 teachers here at Praise Academy. I think my favorite teacher is either Mr. K or Mr. Butler. It's the Bible teacher. Mr. K is a history teacher and Mr. Butler is a Bible teacher. They're just really fun and interactive with you. There's more of a social life with going here. I was a little lonely when I was homeschooled. Coming here to Praise Academy is better than being homeschooled, I think, because there's more social activity and more athletics, and I have more fun here with all my new friends and everything.
So we kind of have a combination of everything right now. 2 in college, 1 in a private Christian college, we have 1 in a junior college, and we have 1 in a private Christian school, and then we have 5 that are still at home being homeschooled through online schooling.
Private schools are not tied to funding, rules, and regulations that public schools are, and often have lower operational cost and produce the best overall student achievement. Critics say that public dollars should not go to private education. But why focus only on the money that goes to private school? Atlanta School Superintendent Beverly Hall earned over $400,000 per year. Across the state, public school superintendents earn well over 6 figures. This is much more than administrators of most private schools.
It is the mission of School for Children, Virtual High School Academy, to challenge students to reach their highest academic potential.
We provide multi-age, non-graded learning environments for children between the ages of 7 to 17. That means we get back to the one-room schoolhouse where everybody is important and every need is met. We're not a school for children with difficulties. We're a school for children. However, we have an opportunity to serve children that have had difficulties. When I see those children's lives transform, I see a child that comes in with ADD, ADHD combined type, ODD diagnosis, and when they can begin to take correction and not respond negatively, that is very impactful for me. That gets me up in the morning. First of all, well, let's be honest, we're in Southwest Georgia. Our children have to compete a whole lot harder. We have to be concerned about the economics of this country, and it starts with children. It starts with children being responsible consumers and being responsible in terms of businesses in this country. This nation was founded on small businesses. Strange that we don't even ask children anything about what do you want to do in terms of what can you create. Our children have got to think now about competing in a global world. The internet has made everything accessible to us. We've done water studies with children in Sierra Leone. We Skype in our science from a past Emory professor. And I mean, we have to do creative things to make this thing work, and that's what we've done.
You never know who you're gonna get, who you're gonna see when you open up your eyes and look at me, look at me.
I knew I couldn't homeschool my child. Being a doctor, my husband being a doctor, we have busy careers, we have other children, and I knew she needed the socialization, but she needed to be in a school that she could concentrate on her career. Independent Studies is a hybrid school, so it's in between a private school and homeschool, and I equate it to college.
I just went to Nashville to record some of my songs, and now I have 5 songs out on iTunes. I think my favorite thing about my school is not having to go every day. At my other school, I had to go every day, and then I'd come home and have 4 hours homework. And I'd usually go to the theater after school, so I wouldn't get home till 9 o'clock. I'd usually be up till midnight. If you have a kid who's not having to go to the theater, doing singing, acting, dancing, all this stuff, I think, you know, if they enjoy their public school and if they like it, I think they should go there. But if they don't enjoy it and they're doing other things, then I think that's when you should move them.
Her career is thriving. She has her own music, her own CD, she has her own, you know, iTunes songs. She's going to LA in January, she's acting, you know, she is thriving.
So what do the solutions look like in a system that gives everyone, parents, students, teachers, and schools, more educational choice? Georgia's Special Needs Scholarship has been one solution. Georgia Senate Majority Leader Chip Rogers.
A few years ago, we did two major things. We passed what is known as the Special Needs Scholarship that would allow those children who are officially defined as special needs children through federal law to take the money, or at least a portion of the money that we're already spending on them, to go to the school of their choice, and preferably go to the school that specializes in their special needs. It has worked wonderfully. In fact, the results that we've seen from those students almost off the charts, not just on test scores, but satisfaction of both the child and the parents. So if you think about it, the child's getting a better education, a safer environment for less cost. It's a win-win for everybody.
We bought our house purposely in this school district. We wanted to stay in the city of Atlanta, and this is one of the best elementary schools in the area. So we bought our house on purpose, and Jackson turned out to have autism. And we did try 1 year in the public school, but it was not the best fit for my son, Jackson. They weren't equipped to handle his anxiety. They didn't even recognize it. Within his first 2 months of being in the public school, he lost 3 pounds, which is about 10% of his body weight. He wasn't eating. He was crying every single day for 45 minutes after school. They couldn't recognize the anxiety. They would say, oh, you know, a lot of kids come to kindergarten and they cry, and, you know, that's just normal. The Special Needs Scholarship was brought up to me by some other parents. I attend some parent support groups, and other parents in the groups were talking about it and how it would help to pay for a private school that better fit your child's needs. We moved Jackson to a private school. It's called the Hirsch Academy, and it's very small, for one thing. There are only 25 children in the entire school, which if you go to public school, that's one classroom. Everyone there is specially trained for kids like Jackson who have high anxiety, who need this special attention to help regulate their emotions in their bodies. And it's been an amazing transformation. He has never cried, even from the first day. As much as he doesn't like change, it was like he recognized that they understood him. And we were only there about 2 weeks, and he said, I love my teachers. And then it was about 2 months, and he said, I love my school. And he had never, ever said, I love school before when we were in the public system. And then just this year, he told his teacher, I can stay here forever. I never have to go to another school, right? It's been incredible.
The phenomenal success of the Special Needs Scholarship has many asking, why not make similar programs available for every student in Georgia? Former school board member and state representative Paulette Braddock.
If you let the money follow the child throughout the system, you empower parents to have more leverage and say in their child's education, and you get the schools competing like business, and that's what works for private business. Anytime you allow competition, you raise the quality and you reduce the cost, and you ultimately get a better end product.
Solutions like student scholarships, more parental choice, tax credit scholarships, and use of technology are available. The problem is that they're not available for every student in Georgia. Choice is the key.
Until we can change the local governance model of public education in America by empowering parents to have more choice and more leadership in those funding mechanisms, funding decisions, then we're just kind of like twiddling our thumbs and stalling for time.
Students in charter schools do 10 to 15% better on CRCT exams than their counterparts in the traditional school in APS. So these are, of course, the students who are very much at risk, and they're doing better in the charter schools.
School choice is not only an issue of economic justice, it's also an educational justice. It's also an issue of economic freedom and educational freedom, and that means that parents should be able to choose. When parents choose, then schools compete. When schools compete, everybody wins because we have better options to offer to the kids in Georgia.
What we need now is an opportunity for all parents to speak and advocate specifically for their individual child.
We could also support and expand our current special needs scholarships and tax credit scholarships. Under tax credit scholarships, companies are able to give dollar for dollar scholarships to kids, often low-income kids, who need some help getting the education that will best suit their needs.
We have found something that is working. We have found that educational freedom, when offered to parents and the children, actually works. The results are fantastic, and it saves taxpayers money.
It's going to take parents talking to their legislators and their school boards and everyone involved to make this happen.
If most of us, particularly my colleagues, if we would take the politics out and stop thinking about what's more popular within the Democratic or Republican circles, or how can I ensure that this particular PAC is going to keep supporting me. If we take the focus off of that and focus on families and kids, we're going to do better for education, and we're going to do better for kids.
Using computers in education and so on, and they're tremendously powerful. And a good teacher, given those tools, can do things that have never been done before. It's almost perfect for the American mindset and the American student.
And that's what school choice ought to be about, that regardless of your zip code, as I say, the pedigree of your parents, or how much money you have, that you have the same opportunity to a rigorous education and one that best meets your needs. And for me, that's what school choice is about and why this movement is so important. And so I've seen the difference. And I don't think it's just charter schools. I think it's any option that when a parent and a child feel that this is the best environment for them, they're going to thrive. And you'll see it in their eyes, and you will see it manifested in the work that they do.
I support my public schools, but we have to come to the realization one size doesn't fit all. Homeschool, private school, charter school, public school, whatever it takes to educate this workforce, we better do it.
Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. I embody the spirit of Frederick Douglass when I say, parents, it's time to challenge the status quo. Nobody's going to represent your interests better than you. The powers that be clearly are protecting their own self-interest. If they really were concerned about children, we'd have had school choice a long time ago. The money would have followed the child, and kids would be going all over town where they can get their needs served.
Let the parents be free to select the teachers and the schools that are actually performing. The opportunity is there. We have all the new tools in order to make this happen. It could be a very exciting time. We've just got to liberate the whole system.
Choice is the key. The time is now. Our failing schools have a negative impact on Georgia's economy, and they hurt all our students. With your help, we can make more choice available, and Georgia K-12 education can and will make the grade.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.